Hello again. Welcome to step 24 for the M1070 build. I am Jacques. I am back after quite a hiatus. Just a brief note on that. The hiatus came because when I was driving bus for the city, lots and lots of overtime and extra hours. Really dug into my free time. Nothing bad, it was completely expected, but just it didn't fit well with doing consistent model building and going forward. I now have a new job with the state of Minnesota DNR, and with that I have Fridays off all the time. So I plan on using that time to build models, make videos, and keep up with this. That said, we were at step 24 for the last one. I have to do this in two parts for a couple of reasons. I thought I'd explain that to you. So first off, what we're going to do is glue together J38 and J37. No big deal, but we want this glued and solid for the second part of this step, which literally is the next part, and I think that they expect a little bit too much out of these model parts, and that is wrapping the cabling, or whatever they're going to use as cabling. Now, apparently I missed some of my cleanup, so I will just go in there with my knife, clean this up a little bit there, a little spot, but you can see this is going to be soft for a while. And I wouldn't really want to wrap anything around and expect that this is going to stay well, not get moved. So I'm going to leave this sit. How long will it be till part 2? Well, unfortunately, what Trumpeter provides you with is 1 millimeter thick white threading rope, whatever you want to call it, and it has a minimal amount of fuzz on it, but it still has fuzz, as you would expect. And the way that this thing is woven isn't really very realistic compared to how tow cabling is in the U.S. Army. So I'll put this down. Now, picture wire is a lot more realistic to how the wire is woven, and this is 1 millimeter thick wire, so it fits the tow shackle ends really nicely. But as you can see, there's lots of kinks that come with hanging wire. It's not meant to stay, I don't even know, linear is not quite the right word, but more rigid than this. So since it doesn't have that, I also have this right here called Flex Right. It's beading wire, and I have liked this for other projects. The problem is that this is only 0.35 millimeters. So this is about a third of what I need to put on there. Doesn't even really come close, because dealing with diameters, it's kind of exponential rather than, you know, linear. So it's just too small. So I have ordered some 1 millimeter beading wire. What makes this so good, this stuff in particular has 21 strands, but I'm getting 7-strand wire, so it's going to be more like picture hanging wire. But they also put a coating on it, a clear coat. It's very thin, so you can't see it, but I find this to be excellent for replicating tow cabling and well, any other kind of cabling. And then you just have to figure out, you know, what diameter you need for your project. Just as an example, I will pull over this. This is a crane off of a Brem, a Soviet recovery vehicle, and here you can see that the 0.35 millimeter cabling was exactly what I needed for what's going on in there. I happen to like it quite a bit. I think this looks really good. So that will arrive. Unfortunately, that will arrive on Monday, and all of next week, considering my new job, I will be away from home until Thursday. But you can expect that I'll either be videotaping the second part of this Thursday night or Friday and get it up hopefully in that time. So now that I've got that glued right there, you can see in the second step right here that we have to put it all together. I'm not confident that we can put these ends on and these sides on and still wind that without it being a huge pain. I would rather have this nice and dry and then wind it up. Whether you're using the provided thread or you are using any of these cabling or any of these other ideas, that's my take on it. The other part comes from the knockout pins that are on parts B6 and B9 right in here. I would prefer to fill those, even though they're going to be pushed up against the cable barrel, the winch, whatever. I think that they're going to be a distraction. So with that, pull out my trusty big huge tube of just pulled some out with the knife here. My big tube of filler, again given to me by fellow modeler. Thanks a lot, Cal. I like it. It's the equivalent of the old Squadron green putty, and I think it works just fine. So I'm prepping it by just putting a little bit of liquid glue on it. That helps it to grab. Just put it on. And I don't want to put a huge amount in there. I'll be sanding this stuff forever. Just a little bit extra. Once it grabs, then move on to the other side. So I guess this step, if I was going to name it, would be kind of the prep to assemble step 4. Step 24. And this, in my opinion, is probably the most important lesson that you could learn outside of just your basic model building, and that is that you got to take it a little slow. A lot of these, I don't like to call these knockout pins defects. I mean, these are what the companies need to do to give you a model. And then you have to, as the modeler, find a way to minimize those working or manufacturing idiosyncrasies. So those will now sit and dry. Now I'm going to look over any of the other parts coming, make sure that they don't need any filler in them, depending on what they are. This never got cleaned off, but knockout parts are inside, doesn't matter. So I've gone over everything. There are no other parts to fill, so that's it. Just filling those right there. Clean off my blade, and I just do it with tissue paper or facial tissue, whatever, you know, just rag. Clean it off, and now my blade is fine. Yes, it probably does put a little bit more extra wear on this number 11, but I have precise control that I want, so I'm not too worried about it. Just change the blade out. So with this, there is a little bit of other prep work I could do. I could sit and glue the MD14 PE parts. They go on these front and back brackets in the front, but I'd rather not. I'd rather clean these up first, so then I don't have a chance of knocking those off. I could bend this right here. It's got this odd kind of shape to it. So all I'm doing to do for this particular piece, because there are no bend guides or anything in there, it's just pretty much a little bit above the top rivet, and then you give it a little, I don't even know how to describe waviness. It's just kind of an odd little compare it to that, I think that looks pretty decent. It's just a strange little wave. I can come down here and I can bend the basket and make the basket. I am going to wait on that because once I make these parts, they're sitting around. I don't want them to get bent. I'd rather do that on the same day that I'm gluing them on, just as it's a personal modeler's choice. And here they show you with this screen how this gets bent over. The only problem I have with how they do this is that they don't give any sort of a form to bend it over, and bending it over photo etch metal frame to get it right is not gonna work. The closest thing that I can say is that since this diagram right here kind of gives you the shape, you can chuck that photo etch right here into a bender, bend it a bit, check it, bend, check. So it's going to be a little bit of a pain. But otherwise, this should be a pretty straightforward finish up when I get my 1mm beading wire. And we'll go over what that's like and if that's going to work or not. I haven't seen it, so maybe that I guess it's a vinyl coating that they put on it. It might be thicker on the heavier, on the heavier duty stuff. This stuff it's almost impossible to see. The twisting of the cabling comes through beautifully. So I'm hoping that that's the exact same setup that I am going to be getting in this next set of beading wire. And if I get a chance while I'm away, maybe I'll go to a craft store and see if I can find some that I like as well. So this is the start of step 24. And I look forward to joining you for the second half of it. Have a good day.